first of all, just what brings you to Binghamton today?
Well, we had a bunch of meetings throughout the day, but we're also speaking tonight at the Broome County Republican Party annual Lincoln Day dinner. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of people I've become friendly with, working closely with during this campaign. It should be a great turnout. My first visit to Broome County, on my first statewide trip once I got in the race, I met with some people and they asked me, are you going to come back? And I told them, don't worry, I'm going to come back over and over and over again. And of my first 5 statewide trips, 4 of the trips brought me through Broome County. And I contacted the person who asked me the question. I said, I told you I'd be back. We're looking forward to any excuse to keep coming back. My first time through, I was really struck by places like Binghamton Plaza and some other parts of the community hurting. And the reality is that the solutions are not complicated. People know what needs to get done to save our communities, to keep people here in our state, to reverse this population loss, and to feel safer on our streets, and to fight for our kids' education. There really is a strong desire amongst people, regardless of whether you're Republican or Democrat, independent, conservative, liberal, moderate. People want to save the state. And they feel like we're at a breaking point. They're at a breaking point, and I want to do my part.
Yeah. All right, so you've touched a little bit on some of the issues, but let's go through, not everyone, there's so many, but just some of your key platforms in your campaign. What are some of your main talking points?
We can't waste any time. Once elected, day one as governor, I believe that all COVID mandates should end. They should end today. I hope that on my first day as governor that there aren't any COVID mandates that are still lingering, but on day one they're gone if there are still mandates. I believe that we should repeal cashless bail in the state. We should support law enforcement more, not less. That we should fire district attorneys who refuse to enforce the law. We see that right now in Manhattan with the new district attorney, Alvin Bragg. I feel like we should improve the quality of education in our schools and to send our kids to school for a quality education. Don't try to indoctrinate my kid. Don't try to brainwash my kid. Just give them a quality education. There are opportunities to create more jobs. We see it in the Southern Tier. We see it in Broome County. We could safely extract more of our natural resources that are under us and create jobs and generate revenue for the state, drive down energy costs. There are so many different ways for New York to reverse this population loss. The solutions are not complicated. If you and I had 5 minutes and we were given a pad and a pen to write down as many ideas we could think of, we'd easily come up with dozens of different ways to make life in New York better. And right now, Albany is looking to get rid of single-family zoning. I oppose that, and I believe that we should have local control and not local control, that we should get rid of the statewide mask mandate on our kids as young as 2 years old. Last week, when all of these other blue state governors were announcing that they were getting rid of their statewide mask mandate, that was a good opportunity for Governor Hochul to do the same. If she's not going to follow the science, maybe she'd at least follow their political science and do the right thing, but instead she extended it. Last week, we saw the Department of Health advancing a regulation to expand the state's power to quarantine and isolate people outside of their residences for communicable diseases. Why is that not going through the legislature? They want to ban all natural gas hookups for new construction. That's something that should never see the light of day, and that's a real bill that might actually get passed. So in so many different ways, we can reverse these attacks on our safety and our wallets and our freedom and our kids' education and save our state, restore a great American state to glory.
To what degree do you feel that the population loss, in particular in upstate, is in and of itself a statement of what the population thinks about the current state of affairs in New York?
You just ask people why they're leaving, and they feel like if they go to some other state that their money is going to go further, they're going to feel safer, they'll live life freer, so they're gone and they're not looking back. While you and I are having this conversation about people fleeing the state permanently, I'm pretty sure that there isn't a rally going on in Florida, in Texas, in South Carolina, where a whole bunch of people are trying to lead the charge of moving to New York. Everyone's going in the opposite direction. It's because of the policies and the trends. And we have one party rule right now. I believe that there needs to be balance. We have a supermajority right now in the state assembly and the state senate. We should break that supermajority. We should have more than just one party rule with outsized power of self-described socialists. And the balance of power shouldn't just be politically, it also should be geographically. If you live in Broome County, you should feel like you have just as much of a voice and representation in our state capital than if you live in Manhattan. But right now, the people who are running Albany are from 4 of 62 counties. There's this misunderstanding with this whole upstate, downstate divide. It's not upstate versus downstate. Because if you go speak to people in Suffolk and Nassau and Staten Island and Richmond County and Westchester and Rockland and Putnam, they're getting burned by these New York City far-left policies, and they're more upset about it than anybody else. So it's actually 58 counties right now that are getting rolled by the other 4. It shouldn't be that way. And it's important for everybody everywhere else to fight for that voice and representation that they deserve to have in the state capitol.
Yeah. So the state has gotten this massive infusion of federal funds as a result of the stimulus following the pandemic. How do you feel that that money should be utilized?
I'm all for local control, and the state can micromanage too much at times where the money isn't being spent as efficiently as it could. Working with the mayor of Binghamton, working with the county executive of Broome County, and in these surrounding towns and counties, they have their own priorities and visions of how money can be spent. And that doesn't apply to just any singular source of funding. I'm talking about all across the board with any pot of money. Just too much gets consolidated. And then you see policies where winners and losers are picked based off of their connections. We saw with the regional economic development councils, where a lot of that money was centralized into the governor's office. And then if you have the good connections and network, your proposal might be able to get to the front of the line, where someone else with the brightest of idea just doesn't know who to call to pitch it to, and then they end up getting cut out of that pot of funding. So I believe that we need to level the playing field, and we need to, across the board, be making a stronger pitch for small businesses and other types of businesses and New Yorkers of all types to want to be able to stay and survive and thrive and have families raised here and people to be more permanently rooted here, because there's a whole lot of people fleeing who actually don't want to flee, but they feel like they don't have a choice.
Yeah. Let's switch to more political questions, if you don't mind. What makes you think, what's your strategy for actually being competitive? Because it seems to me it's really been since Pataki's last re-election campaign that a Republican has been legitimately competitive in the gubernatorial race.
I'm all in to win this race. I'm giving up my House seat to make this run. I'm in my 4th term in the House. I enjoy what I do. I believe that Republicans will take the House. I could run for a position in leadership in the House next year or a committee chairmanship. So I didn't make this decision lightly, and losing is not an option. I believe that we're going to win this race because we have to win this race. The stakes are too high, and I'm seeing it, I'm feeling it when I talk to Democrats. I could be in the bluest, most Democrat, liberal county or group, and they're talking about how they want to feel safer walking their streets. They talk about their freedom. They talk about their inability to make ends meet. We're at a moment in time where the pendulum isn't going to swing. It's actually already swung. We saw it November 2nd. People are wondering, will the political earth move between now and November 8th? It's actually already moved. We saw it this past November 2nd. As Suffolk and Nassau County District Attorney flipped, Nassau County Executive, Suffolk County Legislature, New York City Council seats, from towns from Colony to Hornell, all across the state going from blue to red, people decided that this one-party Democrat rule at every level of government is one that's causing too much power in the hands of people who do self-describe as socialists, who have a vision for our country that's very different than they want. There's a lot of Democrats who feel like the party's left them. They say, this is not the same Democratic Party that I signed up for. So I feel like New Yorkers are going to take control of their destiny. We need to hit our vocal in all 62 counties in this state, which means that everybody everywhere has to be all in, taking nothing for granted, working hard. There's a saying in New York that if you go campaign once in every county in the state in a calendar year, it's called the full Schumer. Well, I got in this race on April 8th, and there's a new saying that Senator Schumer's probably not too thrilled to hear me saying, but when you go to every county in the state at least twice in 6 months, as I did out of the gate when I launched, it's now called the full Zeldin. And I challenge Senator Schumer to try to beat our records, because we're lapping the field. No one can outwork us. We've had a lot of grassroots support, tens of thousands of donations, thousands of volunteer signups, hundreds of local community leader endorsements. We're working hard, all in, great team. The issues are on our side. We feel confident that the time is right and that we're going to win this race.
How do you raise your name recognition, though? Generally, people think that requires a lot of media buys, which are expensive. Do you have the money to do what needs to be done in that regard?
Well, first off, you have to show up at News Channel 34 and sit down and answer the questions, and to keep coming back to continue to answer the questions. The best way to earn someone's vote is to show up. The best way to earn keeping someone's support is to continue to show up. And throughout the campaign, whether it's social media and letters to the editor and press conferences and so much more, it does cost a lot of money to run these races. And we've raised, as of January 14th, the last time we filed, we had already raised $8.5 million from 34,000 donations. We have now been up on TV and radio for a couple weeks, and as this campaign progresses, we just continue to ramp up our TV and radio buy, and we'll continue to get on more areas, more channels, talking to more people. Unfortunately, it is going to cost tens of millions of dollars for this campaign, but we fortunately have been raising the money to be able to get out our message and win. And that is a part of this, is that the TV, the radio, the mail, the digital advertising, we've been doing it, and we're going to do more of it.